Well, I went down kicking and screaming this season. First it was the hybrid, and now a 6.6-liter turbo diesel. Key word is diesel. Brian, I love the rumble, I love the torque, I love the power, I love the truck. I hate the diesel fuel. Ugh.
Well, you know, there's a lot to love about a diesel, and some of it is that maintenance has just got to get done. It's not necessarily pretty and all that glamorous. This appears to be one of those projects, but you said you had some rough starting symptoms and you heard some air sucking. So we're starting with the water fuel separator here. Talk about that a little bit.
Exactly what's going on. Well, you know, this is a work truck, of course. You go out in the morning, it doesn't want to start, sometimes hugely extended starts. I come out, I pump, 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 it's ready to go. Yeah. Next day, pump, 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 it's ready to go. Well, I'm tired of getting out and doing that or going over meeting the guys to do it. So common problem with these Duramax is definitely that water separator sucking air. You know, we got a couple options with Rock Auto as far as replacing the whole thing or just the seals. We'll rebuild this one, we'll put a new one on. We'll make a decision once you get it off. But you go ahead and get it off. I got a demo to set up and we'll show actually how it works.
Awesome. These things have a huge job. It literally separates the water from the fuel. Pretty cool how it does that. John's going to show you. But for us, instead of just rebuilding it from the top, we're going to replace the whole unit. There's enough miles on this truck to do that. Routine maintenance, you'll see. You want to drain that petcock at the bottom on a regular basis and keep the water out of that system. Bad things happen in that combustion process, in the compression of all of it when you've got water in the system. So there's two bolts back here that hold the bracket that hold it on. I've got them loose. That allowed me to have a little bit of flexibility to get the fuel lines removed. I got one to go here, and it's a little bit of an arm wrestling match down in here, but we'll get it while John tells you how this whole system really works.
Now, gasoline versus diesel, what's that all about? Well, let's take a look at a gasoline system and our own diesel system, and you can see the difference in why we actually are replacing our pump. If you look right here on this first graphic up here, you can see port fuel injection or direct injection. They're both gasoline, whether we're coming up here in the intake manifold down or we're going directly into the cylinder. That could be a gasoline directed engine. Now, diesel's been doing it in the cylinders for years. Over here on the other graphic, this is actually diesel injection. So we're coming up to a high pressure pump. The high pressure pump's then coming into a little pre-chamber here. We're going into the cylinder. We're using a glow plug instead of a spark plug. Bam, explosion, we're pushing the piston down. Now, let's look at the two systems, the gasoline versus the actual diesel system. Now, my gasoline, everybody's familiar with, and you can look at it right here on the table. So we're starting right here with the pump. Now, the pump's down in the tank. Now, that's hugely different than our diesel, and this is why we're having a problem. Down in the tank, we're actually pushing the fuel, and when we push the fuel, it goes up through the rail and returns back to the tank on the other side. Now, if it's direct injection, we're going to have a little pump up by the engine that's actually going to raise the pressure up, but we still have that pump in the tank to get the fuel to that point. Our spark plug right here ignites, bam, it's a controlled burn, cylinder goes down, everything's great. Now there's our fuel graphic right here. You can see it's located in the tank. If you pull up the regular car system, it's in the tank, pushing around through a fuel filter, returning back to the tank. Our pump is located in the tank, pushing this way. Now, our 6.6 Duramax turbo diesel over here, whole different story. You can start right here with this graphic, and then we'll look at it on the table. So pull up the graphic on the diesel. You can see right here in the fuel tanks back here, we actually have no fuel pump. What's going on here is we're coming up and we're going over here to a little fuel filter separator, and then our deal right here, this is the computer that actually runs it, and here's our fuel separator. Well, think about that for a minute. The fuel separator, then I come all the way up here to an injection pump. Now, my injection pump's doing two things. It's pulling right here with a suction all the way back to the tank, which could be 6 miles down the road. These are ginormous trucks. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking the low pressure, changing it up to high pressure, coming up through the injector rails, man, mind you, 29,000 PSI we can get it injected to, into the cylinders. Bam, you get your explosion. We use the pump for the timing. Different system. Now look at it right here on the table. This is actually off our 6.6 diesel right here, and you can see what's going on. So remember, my diesel pump's all the way up here on the engine. Back located in the tank is nothing. We don't have a lift pump. So we're taking the fuel on one side of the diesel pump right here. We're actually sucking the fuel from the tank, and we have to pull it up, all right? Now before that, right here is our fuel separator. So anytime I introduce air into the system, this guy here is going to start losing its prime, and I got a pump on the top. Boom, 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 the air separator, pump, pump, pump to get it to this point. Then what we do, we inject it right here. It's driven here, 2 pistons. We bring that up to 29,000 PSI. We go through this injector right here. glow plug, boom, spontaneous combustion, bam, it blows up, you get that cool diesel rumble. Well, that's how the system works, but Brian's got to get the filter out of there. I hope he's working hard.
Okay, last mounting bolt is out up on the top of this bracket. That means the whole assembly is ready to slip down out. Let me get this bolt out. Now, you probably saw we have a drain pan underneath. Sure enough, when I disconnected that second fuel line, we got a little bit of drippage. You want to catch that, take care of it. All right, the whole thing is detached, and there's a wiring harness, a pressure sensor down at the bottom. I'm going to make sure you get that undone, protect it well. Let me get this guy down out of here for you. Here's the harness, one click, and here is the assembly. Let me bring it up here so you can see how it all works. All right, there's the whole fuel water separator. This is the hand prime pump. Lots of times this is what John heard sucking air. This is what we're ultimately going to rebuild, or actually in this case replace. This is the petcock. Routine maintenance on a diesel, you got to drain the water out of here. Water is bad in that combustion chamber, and that whole process, you're going to lose power, it's going to idle rough, lots of bad symptoms. So we're ready to go, get the new one in. I got to get this over to John, and we got to see what's really going on inside here before we replace it with the new. There you go. I'll tell you what, I put this mounting bolt back in, got it in the vise so I could secure it.
Right.
Used a strap wrench, and I broke this guy loose.
There you go.
So we're loose.
Tighten it up for a second.
Yeah.
Check this out. Here's our primer, so I'm priming it. I get some, sometimes I don't. Oh, look, made a little fuel, cool.
Yep.
So it'll work intermittently. That's probably where we're sucking the air for sure. The difference is if I take this one here and I pump it up, hear that?
That's what we need right there.
Exactly,
All
cool.
right, there's your rebuild. I'm going to get this guy reinstalled.
Perfect. Well, you know, Rock Auto's awesome because we have the whole kit right there he's going to reinstall, or for a few bucks, you can just go ahead and rebuild this. It's not too bad. Now, I got a little T20 Torx. You can take it apart. I'm just going to blow it apart real quick with our little ratchet here so you can see what's going on. But before we do that, I'm going to switch over here, and you can see there's actually instructions that come in the kit, which is super nice, super easy to do. There it is, all lined up. There's the O-rings, and we're off and running. So there's a couple T20 Torx on the top here. I'm going to pull these out. And then when I pull those out, you'll see exactly what's going on with our truck is that the seals inside of here are bleeding by. There it goes. Now hold on to it because there's a little spring pressure I'm going to show you. Right here is the spring. Take the spring out. There's the little pump and the seals inside of there that actually does it. Here's the spring located right here. So I'm going to remove the spring. And then you got these two seals right here. Now these are the seals and these rebuild seals. This is important because you got lip seals and you want the cup facing up and the bottom one facing down because that's what's creating that prime. That's what's going on to get that suction in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop these off and just go in here with a little pick and get underneath there if you can. Just be gentle. This is a plastic apparatus all right here in suction, so I can pull these off. Once I get these off, I can go around and work them up gently. I don't want to scratch or gall the surface here we're working on. So I'll pull that one off, and then we'll go down and we'll get the second one off down here. And once again, this is our whole prime here. Now I got a little fresh motor oil right here. I'm going to take a couple squirts, put it on my finger, get the seals all lubed up. So when I'm putting them on there, they're in good shape. Okay. Now the lip seal is located right here. You want the lip seal down on the bottom one. So I'll work that one on. So it's going down on the bottom one. We'll go all the way down to the second one down there. Walk it down. Just be gentle. Get the seal in the facing down position all the way around. Once you get it down there and in the groove, you want to come back and just make sure it's all the lip seals open on the bottom portion. Be careful, don't rip it. Pick it through there. All right, and then we can do the same thing. Now this lip seal here is going to be on the top portion. Now when that's on the top portion, it's actually going to come through here, and that's going to create the vacuum for the pumping to get our fuel on there. All right, now we can just put this back and torque it to specification, but there's a couple seals I want to show you on the bottom. So if I go to the bottom here and I pull off the other portion down here, 2 Torxes down here, 20 Torxes once again, and then be careful here as well. All right, a little bit of spring pressure right here and a check ball. You can see it right here. The little check ball, be careful, take care of that. And located right here is another little O-ring. So this O-ring here, they all come in the kit. You can put that on there like that. And then what you want to do, once again, just lube everything up. Pretty simple process, and like I said, just follow the instructions. I mean, they're all right there. It goes just like that. Also on the top right here, you actually have a valve right here. Rock Auto in the kit gives you a nice brass one that's not going to ream off. Take that out, replace that. On the bottom here, I'm going to fix these seals, they're a little contorted, I'll get them right. But you can pull this bottom piece off as well. There may be an O-ring under there, but you don't want to mess with this. That's a non-serviceable device. So what we do is we'll get this all tightened back up. We'll have a spare. It's pretty cool. Or you can put it back on your truck and you'll be in good shape. You won't have a hard starting problem. Let's check in with Brian. He's moving along pretty good.
Well, it's good to see that rebuild process isn't all that bad, but I'm happy we're putting a whole new system in here. This truck was a prime candidate for it. It's a work truck, high miles. So what I've done here is I've got all these cooling lines, everything I can loosened up, clamps are loosened, to give me every opportunity to not damage any of the connectors or the petcock valve as we go down in. So I'm going to hang the new assembly filter separator right here. I'm just going to take one bolt and go finger tight to kind of hang it in space there, so that I can reconnect those fuel lines. The fuel lines, you don't want any leaks. You got to get those clamps seated right. And again, access, biggest challenge. Not all that complex. And of course, you see that open end wrench laying there? That's the only thing that works in this tight space, is one flat at a time. So take your time, get it right, and then I'm going to begin the process of reconnecting the fuel lines. Now I cheated, I put a little bit of silicone lubricant there so they'd slide up on you. Want to cross that shoulder, you got to get the clamps right. Last thing you want is any kind of a leak. Let me work with one here, get it started up over, and then I'm going to have to use fancy pliers to get it on. I'll get this on, I'll get the whole assembly remounted. Down at the bottom, we'll reconnect the connector. I'm going to use a little dielectric gel there because it's down in the moisture behind the suspension. Make sure that's all good. Hey guys, you got to keep water out of the fuel system. Otherwise, you introduce hydrolysis, oxidation, microbes start to grow, bad things start to happen. So this is key to the whole heart and lung system of this truck. So not hard to do. I'm going to get it buttoned up and I'm going to get this thing back on the road and ready for work. Stay with us on Tech Garage, brought to you by rockauto.com.